Now, if you're Roy, if you're the guy, doing all the climbing, it wouldn't be so bad. But if you're Roy, he's probably saying, I didn't sign up for this. We really never know what we're signing up for when we sign up for anything, though, do we? I mean, your job, for instance, you didn't really fully know exactly on those certain days and those certain tasks that you're doing or those certain customers. You really didn't exactly know all that you're signing up for. Or that diet that you started, especially if it's a new diet. If it's one you've been on before, but if it's a new diet, man, you really don't know what those delicious chocolate shakes taste like until you get one. You know how they always do that wonderful camera, picture on it. Apparently they've dropped like an ice cube on it, and then it comes splashing up, and they take this picture, and for whatever reason, that's supposed to look good and yummy. But anyway, you never really know. You never really know if a meal replacement bar is going to really replace the meal or how that's going to affect your stomach. You really never quite know these things when you sign up for it. Or, for instance, you all agree with this, right? Careful now. Because, but you probably agree with this. You never really quite know. It doesn't have to be all bad. This could be like, you could be saying, like, right, it's so much better than I ever expected when I signed up for this one. Or how about that haircut? Like, how's that haircut doing, Jeff? It's good. Jeff had like a month ago, but he's all good now. But you never know. You never know, especially like now. Like Dee cuts my hair, and it's like always the same and good and it's great. But you never know when you first let somebody cut your hair, do you? You really don't know exactly what you're signing up for. I can remember when back when they used to say, "Do you want it tapered?" Or I don't even know what's the opposite of tapered in the back. Or line. I didn't know. I've never looked at the back of my head before. Most guys haven't, unless you're under a car and you hit yourself, on the top of your head and you see if it's bleeding. Most guys never have seen the back of their head before. I don't know, tapered or whatever, and then they say like the number 1, 2, or 3 blade or whatever it is. I have no clue. But you never really know, do you, what you're signing up for when you sit in that chair, or for, of course, moms, motherhood. Didn't really know, did you, exactly what you're signing up for? So I remember going to a basketball game with a young family once, and I was sitting there. They had a little boy that was playing basketball on a team, and so I just joined the family to watch the little boy play. And so you have, in this situation, you had Dad, and then an older sibling sitting with Dad, and then you had Mom with a real little baby, like nursing age baby, whatever that would be. I guess it's like nursing age or something. I'm not good on these things, but and little baby was very upset and just having a bad, didn't want to be at the basketball game type of moment. And I can just remember kind of observing from an innocent party, perspective, like Dad and son are just having the time of their life. Watching the little boy play on the court, and Mom wasn't having such a good time. Because Mom, it was the baby was really fussy, and it's like she could give the baby to Dad or brother, but they're frankly going to do a worse job. And so, Mom is leaving the bleachers and coming back and all this, and just Mom's not having a good experience at all, and the other guy's loving it. And this is not to say it's wrong or right on Dad's part, or older siblings part. It's just sometimes it works out that way, doesn't it, moms? Where it's just not as fun for mom. And so sometimes you say, and I understand this totally, like, I didn't sign up for this. I am as equally invested in this basketball game as my husband is, and my, the older sibling, and I want to see the game just as bad, but it's really hard for me just because of the different roles that I play. And so sometimes I totally get it. There's a lot of those times. Between all the times of cleaning and mending and washing and wiping and fixing and all the things that you do. Sometimes I just talk to a mom and I say, when do you actually get a time to yourself? Like I'll ask some of the young moms around here that, and they'll think about it and they'll say, well, right before I go to bed. And there may be like a half an hour or an hour just to themselves. And again, that's not saying right or wrong, but a lot of times it kind of is the way it is for moms. And that can be fine, and it really can be fine, but sometimes I think there's a frustration that must happen, I'm just guessing, must happen for moms in that you do so many things that sometimes your identity becomes replaced with what you do. Like, all I am, it seems, is a wiper or a fixer or a maker or a hugger or whatever. All I do is just one thing to the next until I finally crash for an hour before I go to bed. It's just like, what I do. So if you look at this diagram, what, how, and why, I just get the feeling, because I've had this feeling a lot of times just in life in general of, I didn't sign up for this, and I just get the feeling that there must be a lot of times where moms, you must say, I didn't sign up for this, and there's the tendency to just think that all I am is what I do. All I am is what? And on top of that, there's the how. There probably is no other role in life that there are so many people trying to tell you how to do it. I doubt it. I doubt there's any other role in life that has as many experts saying that this is how you should do it, with all of the judgmentalism that goes on. I think that moms, it has to be the worst. And sometimes, mom, let's be honest, you can be your own worst enemy, because you have this model mom that you try to match up to, you try to be like, and sometimes you just continually kick yourself because you're not exactly like that person, not even close. And then on top of it, you feel guilty, because this is a human being we're talking about. This is my child, and if I'm not good at this, it's not like, just like not being good at a sport or something. This is like raising a human being. So a couple things happen, I think, and that is, moms, it must be easy to feel like your identity is just wrapped up in what you do. And then there's this added frustration I sense from everybody, everywhere, from family to Facebook, telling you how to do it. So this is a quote from the New York Times. It says, Motherhood is no longer viewed as simply a relationship with your children, a role you play at home and at school, or even a hallowed institution. It goes on to say this: motherhood has been demoted to the realm of lifestyle. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This is the what. Motherhood, unfortunately, and I can see how easy this could happen, motherhood gets demoted into just the what, just the expectation of what you're supposed to do, instead of the tremendous value of being a mom. It just gets devalued into, well, what I do is I run them to this game, and I fix this dinner, and I go through this drive-in window, and I demoted to the realm of what? An all-encompassing identity with the demands and expectations. This is the how. See, motherhood has been demoted to what? Like what I do, an all-encompassing identity with the demands and expectations of how everyone thinks I ought to do it. And it says it threatens then to eclipse everything else in a woman's life, and that's dangerous. You might be at that point right now. I mean, you're so stressed out. You're so stressed out just to get here today. It's like all the what you do and everybody telling you how to do it, it kind of threatens to reduce your identity in just the what, and even steal who you are. Motherhood, I think, in a lot of ways, has become what and how. And what this leads to is despair. Despair, if you look it up, despair, it means hopelessness. You've all had that, whether you're a mom or not, you've all probably had those moments. Isn't that like the worst, to feel hopeless? Like if you just have an ounce of hope, regardless of how bad the situation, if you just have an ounce of hope, it can give you breath and just the energy to make it through. But man, when you feel hopeless, and I think sometimes moms, and maybe you're right there today, where you're so caught up in the what's that are demanded of you and the hows of how you're supposed to do it, that you might be feeling some despair. And despair leads to bitterness. Now, I'm not talking about, I'm not just talking about moms here. I'm talking about, see, I felt when I burn out in ministry some years back now, I felt despair because I was just working so crazy, so many hours, and it's just like I just went from the one thing to the next. I was working, that job, and then at FedEx part-time, and so it was like I clocked out at home, and I clocked out of my church work, and I left the house at midnight to drive to FedEx, and I worked till 4:30 in the morning, and I forced myself to get up like at 10:30, 11 in the morning, and then clocked into, what I was doing for the church. It's just, you know what I'm saying, moms? It's kind of like that. And I felt, and this applies to whether you're a mom or not, any situation in life where if you feel like all you become is just someone who does some job description. And on top of that, you got everybody yelling at you. Then it leads to despair. And despair, and this is what I felt kind of in a work environment, it's just like, it makes you angry. It makes you angry at everything. Even people or situations that aren't being unreasonable, it just makes you angry because you're just feeling so much despair because you just feel like you're a big what or a how. And then I speak from experience on this. Like, you start statements that start with, I'm the only one who. And see, when you feel despair, when you feel bitter, then you start to think, inward. It's just what we do as human beings. It's like circle the wagons. And we feel like it's only me who gets treated this way. And so we start statements with like, I'm the only one who cleans up, or I'm the only one who cares about my kids, or I'm the only one who has to, and you finish that statement. When you start statements with, I'm the only one, it's usually a warning sign that probably there's some despair, there's some bitterness, there's some great frustration, and all of it has to do with, I didn't sign up for this. And let me just say that if you find yourself saying a lot of those sentences of, I'm the only one who, it really is a sign that you're frustrated. And there can be some good that comes out of statements that start with, I'm the only one who, but the only way that it can be is if you have someone else that's listening who's like a kind of like a outside perspective, a third party in this. But most of the times, if you're in that I'm the only one who stage, it's probably not going to be a healthy conclusion. So let me remind you of a story that you've heard maybe before. One of the top architects in the world lived in the 1600s. Christopher Wren, W-R-E-N, and he is the one who made, among other great buildings, St. Paul's Cathedral in England. And the story's been told many different ways. You might have heard it a different way. But the story goes that in the 1600s, it was originally made of stone. It's been rebuilt over the years because of fire and just age. Originally made of stone. When it was at the very beginning of being made, I mean at the very beginning, there's like no building, no definable structure at all. There's just like some guys, some stone masons that are starting to build a wall. But you can't really tell what it is. So the story goes that somebody comes along and asks one of the stone masons what he's doing. Apparently there's like three there, and so he asks the first one, who seems quite agitated with life, and he says, like, what are you doing? And he snaps back and he says, I'm cutting stones, as if, like, what else do you think I'm doing? Like, please leave me alone now. Ask someone else a dumb question. Like, I'm cutting stones. That's what I'm doing. And as the story goes, then he goes on, the one that's passing by goes on to the second one and says, like, what are you doing? And this one says, I'm making a wall. Doing the same things. Both stonemasons doing the same work, same project. One's cutting stones, one is making a wall. And as the story goes, this guy seems to be a little more into what he's doing. And he tells the passerby, he tells him how much he's making and how he looks forward to getting that paycheck at the end of the week for making this wall. And then the story ends with the third stonemason, who apparently seemed to, even though he's doing the same amount of work, seemed a lot more energetic. And it goes like this. What are you doing? I'm building a cathedral. Doing the same work, same task, same blood, sweat, and tears. Probably the same feelings of, like, I didn't sign up for this. You know, like whenever you cut your hand or something and you're cutting those stones and then you slice your finger. I mean, all I signed up for was to build a wall. But now I got this. You know, or when you drop a stone on your foot, like, I didn't sign up for this. See, in no way am I saying you're wrong, or anybody's wrong for saying I didn't sign up for this, because that's human. We all feel that way. But what I am saying is, you're probably still going to have to do those things anyway. And a perspective change helps. So let me go on. When you are consistently pounded with what and how, it feels like all you ever do is cut stones, or at best, build a wall. But, Mom, here's the exciting conclusion. You are building a cathedral. Interesting verse in 1 Corinthians 3:16, where the writer says, don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? What the author here is saying is, don't you know that God lives in you? And don't you know that as far as God is concerned, you are a temple that He lives in? Or we could say you are a cathedral that God lives in. So moms, you know where I'm heading with this. Moms, you are building little temples. You are building precious little cathedrals. Moms, you are. What are you doing? I'm cutting stones. What are you doing? I'm doing another trip to the park. What are you doing? I'm stopping another fight. That's what I'm doing. I understand that. I understand. You didn't sign up for this. I get that. I don't blame you. But I'm just saying, could say that, or you could say, like as you're separating those two kids from one another, it may not look like it, but I'm building little temples. I'm building little cathedrals. And I'm trying to keep these cathedrals alive so that God can continue to live in them. And I'm trying to teach them how to live. You see, all I'm saying here is that if we think in those moments of frustration of the wise, and then, in closing, God needs you to help build His little temple. I am not being overdramatic. I mean, God has chosen you to partner with Him, and Dad, and grandparents, and teachers, and all others in that child's life. But God, Mom, God has chosen. No, He didn't. Yes, He did, because God knows everything before it happens. But I'm not. But God thinks you are. Right. But I'm so incomplete, and but God chose you because whether you think you measure up or you don't, you're not as good in some areas as others, but who is? Nobody is as good as everybody in some areas. But we're better than others. It doesn't even matter. God chose you for your kids and their personality. because they're little temples that God wants to live in, and he wants to partner with you. So when you say, I didn't sign up for this, say it. You say it. You'll probably say it yet today. It's okay. It's all right. But try to follow that up with, but I am building a temple. I am building a cathedral. Thank you, Mom.